National Puerto Rican Bar Association, established to meet the question on a national basis, what is Puerto Rico? A nation, a state, or something in between? Join the conversation every week right here.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'm Anthony Suarez. With me, Steve Alsina, my co-host on Equal Justice, a podcast of the National Puerto Rican Bar Association Conference. And we have a very special guest today, and we're going to be talking with Congressman Maxwell Frost, and who's be talking to us about Puerto Rico and what is upcoming with our conference. So, Steve, take it away.
Let me give you a little introduction about Mr. Maxwell Alejandro Frost, born in January 17, 1997, an American politician and activist, a U.S. representative of the Florida District 10 Congressional District since 2023. I'm sorry, I apologize. Mr. Frost was born in 97, like I said, from a Puerto Rican mother of Lebanese descent and a Haitian father. His biological mother had several children, and he was adopted at birth by Maritza Argibay. Did I say that correct, Mr. Frost?
Yes, Argibay.
Argibay Frost, a Cuban immigrant with a special education teacher. Patrick Frost was his stepfather, a Kansas-born musician. Connected to his birth mother in 2021. He studied in Orange County, in Osceola County. Okay. He also went to the School of Technology. He also went to Valencia. Mr. Frost has been a busy man. He also is a drummer. Played them drums. I see that photo, Mr. Frost. Welcome to the program. It's an honor to have you here. We are now. Tony is gonna give you a little surprise here. Somebody you know. So Tony, take it away.
Well, we'd like to add to this conversation a former president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association of Florida, an attorney, practicing attorney here in the state of Florida, a former guest on this show, and someone which, of course, we know very well, who's given us a podcast on employment law, and she's an employment lawyer. And so, Marie Masson, thank you for joining us and taking part in this broadcast to promote the national conference.
You're most welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome, Representative Frost.
So, Congressman, thank you once again for willing to take the time. I know they're busy up at Congress trying to pass laws, which Congress has not been very successful at doing lately. But we'll get into that in a moment. Obviously, you got a little background about what the National Puerto Rican Bar Association Conference is. And we have bar associations throughout the country in New York, Florida, Illinois, and of course on the island of Puerto Rico. But the problem that, as we perceive it, is that there may be 1,000 plebiscites on the island as to the status of the island, but it's going to go nowhere because Puerto Rico do not have votes and power in the Congress to make anything happen. So, I know that you keep track, because as I said, you have Puerto Rico in your veins, and you have relationships with others. You know the community, size of the community here in Florida. I would like for you to give us a take on the question of whether or not a bill that was promoted by Darren Soto, the Puerto Rican Status Act, does that have any chance of ever getting through Congress?
I think it does have a chance. And the reason why is, number one, we're seeing more and more people get on it. Number one, we got to zoom in within, people who might have disagreements on where status should end up have come together in Congress to create this bill, which is a compromise bill, to essentially create a binding process so Puerto Ricans can make their choice and that Congress respects that choice, whatever it is. And I think that's really important. So we've worked out the disagreements within it, right? And then outside of it, because it's seen as a compromise bill, I think it's going to give us the opportunity to move it forth as a Democratic caucus. However, I will say that Republicans will not support this bill. They are worried about where things could go. And unfortunately, it's not bipartisan the way we'd hope it would be. And so I think this is a bill you could see be passed in a Democratic trifecta. But what's important is that voices who understand that the current status, colonial status of Puerto Rico, people who see that as unacceptable, have to continue to push to ensure that the Democratic Party sees this as a priority and an important thing that needs to be done.
Marie, you have a question?
No, I really encouraged by that opinion by the representative, and I know that there's congressional efforts on the other side to even challenge birthright citizenship for Puerto Rico and other U.S. territories. So I know that the battle is uphill, but I feel more confident to hear him say that, and I hope that we can promote those efforts within the general public so that we, from our end, can do the most that we can to support those bills and that are supportive of the civil rights of Puerto Rico, because this is what it boils down to. It's a civil right issue. You can't have second-class citizens in our great nation, and it's something that needs to be reinforced at the civics level, at the schools and the general public. So I'm encouraged to hear what he has to say.
Go ahead, Steve. You have a question?
Yes, interesting. No, I it's a compliment or a comment, and basically is that now, based on what the representative has said, we have hope, because I guess he's moving the ball and making sure that we spread this out nationwide, which is what we first need to do to be able to go to the second step.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's crucial.
I think the important thing is when you think about the Democratic Party getting to a position to govern, right? Presidency, Senate, and Congress, or in the House of Representatives. Everybody has a ton of different priorities. And as you guys know, the real window of doing big things is usually the first 100 days. And afterwards, you can still do big things, but the pace is slower. We see that happening with Trump right now, right? There's still a lot of things going on, but we know those first 100 days, they rammed through a ton of stuff, and now it's moving at a slower pace. That's why the organizing is so important. That's part of the reason I say we need more organizers elected to Congress and people who understand how to keep an issue at the forefront and organize our colleagues to see the value in it. Because the vast majority of members of Congress on the Democratic side do not have huge Puerto Rican populations in their district, which means we have to do more work at educating them to not just understand the issue, to not just educate them on the issue, but to have them prioritize it as something that's important for the people of Puerto Rico, but also our democracy as a whole. And the fact of the matter is, when we have a country that has places like Puerto Rico that live under a colonial status, which I would say already experience kind of what a second class of citizenship looks like when you talk about the amount of resources that don't go to Puerto Rico, when you talk about the things that Puerto Ricans are not able to access due to the current status, making sure that they understand, number one, that it's wrong and that we have to be able to give Puerto Rico a choice and make it a binding choice that we respect and we move forward on, I think is important. But that does not happen unless you have people organized. So that bill is Darren Soto's bill. He's organizing. We know Nidia Velazquez, who's La Luchadora. She's been fighting on this. Alexandria Cortez, right? We have a lot of people who are fighting on this. But again, making sure our colleagues understand why this is important is top of mind. And frankly, when we think about who we're going to support to be the next president of the United States, this is one of the issues that people need to be asking them about. Are you going to prioritize this? Is this something that is going to be important to you? And what are you going to do to push it besides just talking about it when you come to Orlando, Florida, and New York? And
this is, and you've hit the point, because what we've done with moot court competition and what this moot court competition and the issue of how important it is to the nation. What the moot court competition is an attempt to create a cadre nationwide, so that people, schools, lawyers, potential future, influencers, lawyers, judges will someday have heard and learned about the territorial clause, because you don't cover that in law school. So no one listens to about this. No one knows about this. No, and someone knows that this is still a colony after 128 years. Now and then, so moot court is one effort at that. But what most people don't really understand is long-term consequences of having Puerto Rico in the current status. And that brings me to the question of Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny recently did a song, right, about Puerto Rico and Hawaii.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you know, and I'm sure you do, the demographic of what's happening in Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico could not control its economy. Right now, Promesa controls the board. There's no elected official on that board. It's controlled totally by the federal government. The locals have no power. The result of which is that youth leave Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico is in a demographic decline. And like Bad Bunny says, we end up like Hawaii. And when you want to go see Puerto Rican culture, go to the Marriott Hotel. They have a great Lelo Lai show, you know. And that's when you're going to see Puerto Rico. And that's what will be left of Puerto Rico unless there is a national consensus to move this agenda.
100%. And this is why good paying jobs, resilient infrastructure, energy infrastructure, having a good grid, affordable housing, healthcare, education, good paying jobs, all this stuff is so important because right now, Puerto Rico's biggest export is its young people who see that, who they might want to stay. A lot of them do want to stay, but they're driven out by an economy that's not working for them. They're driven out by looking around and saying, I'm not sure if I can build the future I want to build here. They see a government, both in the United States and in Puerto Rico, in my opinion, at least at this moment, that isn't championing average working people and young people. And then they see the other side of this crisis that a lot of people don't talk about, which is the fact that because of the colonial status and because the Puerto Rican government in many instances has been focused on trying to bring in big rich people from the United States mainland who have no interest in forming jobs and just want to siphon land and coastal land away from the island and not its seniors. What ends up happening is a lot of people don't realize that in most countries, the people most likely to die by suicide are younger people. In Puerto Rico, it's older people. And I think that statistic in and of itself is very sad and indicative that you have a senior population that feels like they can't grow old in Puerto Rico because they don't have the resources that they need. So you have young people who see that and they're making the decision to leave. But then there's a second thing that has to do with the climate crisis. And I always tell people the largest group of climate refugees in the United States of America live in my district right here, which is the hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans who came here after Hurricane Maria, who did not come here on vacation. They did not come here because they wanted to come here. They came here because they were forced to come here due to the climate crisis, the hurricane, and the inability to really recover after in a timely fashion. All this stuff makes it so you have all these young people leaving. And a lot of this leads down to the question of its colonial status. And does it set up Puerto Rico for success or failure? And obviously we're seeing its failure, and it's a big, big problem. Not the fault of the average Puerto Rican person who are hardworking and trying to live, preserve their culture, live in their island, but of the politicians.
You know, Marie, I wonder if you could take a couple of minutes and explain both to the public who are listening, watch this, and to the congressman is the moot court. What are we trying to do in the past, and what are we trying to do now?
Sure. In the past and now, we've always had the mission of highlighting the status of Puerto Rico, the civil rights issue that we have been talking about. But it's also an opportunity like no other to train law students, young lawyers in the intricacies and obscure issues of Puerto Rican status and citizenship. The problems that we've presented in moot court have always revolved around this question: why somebody who receives Medicare benefits or Social Security benefits living in Orlando, Florida, decides to move to Puerto Rico and all of a sudden their benefits are cut down only because of the choice of moving back to the island. And this is what we're trying to do: continue to breed generations of law students, future lawyers, future leaders that are familiar with the issue and that can pretty much continue to bear the flag and defend it in future generations. we also want to educate the judges that we invite to serve as moot court judges into these issues. I'd be interested to know how many people in Congress know even where Puerto Rico is located, or how many of them know that Puerto Ricans are born U.S. citizens. I don't mean this in any insulting way, but if you go to the general public, it's a very small percentage of people who actually are educated about Puerto Rico and its political status. So we know that we still have a lot of work ahead of us to educate even judges and lawyers and the general public. And we'd like to promote that for generations to come until this issue is resolved in a very satisfactory way. I'm interested in knowing, and I know the congressman supports an independent judiciary, and he supports selecting judges that are knowledgeable and that care, because participation outside of the courtrooms in events like this really tells us that they have a broad idea of the law, that they can be independent, but they are also very educated in the entire swath of our population, especially if they sit in our districts. When you get a litigant in front of you and now you know that much more about their background and their country and their situation, it can only help judges have a broader perspective when they're neutrally deciding cases. If I may ask the congressman, I know that you're very big on motivating and engaging the younger generation. You're a millennial yourself, and then the Gen Z generation, which my children belong to, are either voting for the first time in the midterm or will be voting for the first time in the general election. My son voted for the first time in the general election in 24, and he was excited and anxious to go cast his vote. So what is your strategy to keep them engaged, especially the Latino population, which is a big percentage of your district?
Yeah, of course. And funny enough, I'm actually the oldest a Gen Zer can be. I'm the first. I'm a Gen Zer. But either way, I think the big thing is, number one, I think a lot of times people think that there are young people issues, and I actually disagree. There's no such thing as young people political issues. We all care about the same stuff. Young people just might view it through a different lens. But when I set up my first satellite office, or my second satellite office, was on our university campus here. And I thought people would come and speak with us about all the issues folks think young people care about the most, which is important, right? Climate, guns, etc. The top two issues people came to us for help on are housing and food. So it's like just like everybody else, right? Young people are, number one, see rents increasing. They can't afford a place to live. They're bunked up at 4 or 5 people. Buying a house is not even a dream, or it's just never
a choice anymore.
Yeah, they've subscribed that away to a thing of the past. Yeah. They can't afford food. They were told if you go to college, you can get student debt because you'll get a good job right after you graduate and you'll be able to pay it off. Now they're finding out that was a lie. You're not able to get a job with the benefits you need to help you pay off your student debt. We see that the amount of people defaulting on their debt and behind on their student debt is the highest it's ever been in our nation's history right now. And if people just had to worry about one type of debt, maybe, they would get through it. We're a resilient people. But you have student debt, you have medical debt, you have car debt. You now have companies that are landlords that are colluding with rent now, pay later companies, where they're essentially pushing these companies on young people who can't afford their rent. So they're even in more debt. I don't know if you've seen these jokes about people using buy now, pay later companies to pay for their groceries, but it comes from a real place. More and more young people are using these services to pay for their meals and their groceries. So we have a generation that's in an insane amount of debt, cannot afford to pay for their expenses, also don't own anything, don't actually own anything of substance, and then on top of that, are being told they're lazy when Gen Z is working at the same levels any other generation has worked. And in fact, 67% of young people have a second job or a side hustle to be able to make ends meet. So all these things line up, and you have people saying, what the hell's going on? Everything's so expensive. I have no money. And then on top of that, I'm not able to do what the American dream is, which the American dream is not to scrape on by. The American dream is to thrive, to be able to put money away, to be able to build assets, to be able to own a home, and that's just slipping away. And so I say all that to say that we need our candidates to focus on big ideas that when a young person hears it, they see themselves represented in it. Because if the things you go and you advocate for are too broad, right? We're going to lower the cost of housing. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. People just hear another politician lying about stuff. This is why you've seen certain politicians be successful who give you specifics that you can say, wow, that would change my life. And the more we do that and spread that message, not just on colleges, but everywhere that young people are at, we're going to be able to get the youth vote up. And in fact, something we do is we go to a lot of concerts, we host concerts, we do a lot of music related stuff because that's authentic to me because I'm a musician and that's a big part of my life. And so what I always encourage other politicians to do is be yourself and go out there and talk about big, bold ideas. And that's how we're going to get young people out to vote.
By the way, I need to be, we've been hearing a lot. We've been talking about colony and all that other stuff, using that word. But I want to know that it's clear so that none of the bar associations or the conference support one status for Puerto Rico or the other. All right. But we do support the concept that Puerto Rico will be given the opportunity to determine its fate finally. So the current status is just not acceptable. But what the people of Puerto Rico, whether they want to be a state or whether they want to be an independent nation, that's up to them on the island to make that choice. But our fight as people who have congressmen, who have senators, and have influence on the mainland, need to bring this voice out so the Puerto Rico have the opportunity. I just want to make that clear so that anybody who's watching this is, ustedes son estadistas, you know, that they come at me that kind of stuff. And I want to make sure that everyone understands that. You know? No,
100%. No, look, for me, I don't even talk like my opinion is pretty irrelevant, right? Like what matters is that Puerto Ricans get to make their choice and we respect it. Whether you're for statehood, whether you're for independence, whether you're for free association, whatever it is. And we want to make sure that we pass a law so when there is a vote, it's binding and Congress respects the vote and moves on it, and that it's a free and fair election. And I think that's the other really important part as well.
So I think what's your relationship with Nydia Velasquez and AOC there in Washington?
I have a great relationship. I love Nydia. You know, she is, again, La Luchadora. She is obviously retiring, and she's an icon, and she was progressive before it was cool. You know, she's like the OG, and I love Nydia. I'll always remember we went on a trip for work to Colombia, and it was like 1 a.m. We're in a salsa club. I'm a timbalero, so I was told everyone we need to go see some salsa, and I don't really dance salsa. I play it, you know. But Nydia's there dancing, and I danced with her. I couldn't keep up. It was like 1 a.m. I could not keep up with Nydia. I'm having like elevation sickness because we're in Bogota, you know. So I'm, you know, and she's just going at it. And then AOC is a dear friend of mine. She is like my big sister in Congress, and I really, of course, have looked up to her for so long. But getting to serve with her is an honor, and she's the real deal. You know, she really is the real deal. She cares about people. She's wicked intelligent. And when I first got to Congress, I couldn't afford a place to live, and I got denied all the apartments I applied to. And she was the first person to reach out and give me real practical advice on how to be a working class person coming in the Congress. So I love Alexandria, and she's like a sister to me for sure.
Well, let me wrap that. One last question. I'll go around. Everybody has last questions, but Congressman Soto has been gracious enough to say that the winner of the moot court competition, the team that actually wins, will get an opportunity to go to Washington and advocate before a panel. I'm assuming he'll be the panel, assuming that he will ask you to perhaps listen to these young men, because this is in order for our competition to be competitive, to have a large number of teams, we have to give those students something, right? So coming to Orlando, competing, well, it's a relatively new a moot court competition. There's lots of moot court competitions where Yale goes to, Harvard goes to. That's where they want to go, right? But if we can hang out to them, and we have put it on our invitation, the winner goes to Washington and gets to address Congress. I would invite you that you would hopefully be able to join that, because that would, the next year, once that word gets out, then we'll have Harvard, then we'll have Yale, then we'll have Cornell, all the big names there. Marie, you have something?
No. I'm just getting excited as I hear you talk. And sure, I mean, we have our local schools, FAMU, competing. So our hope is that at a national level we get, and we have the University of Chicago also competing. Oh, nice. Our efforts to reach out to the University of Puerto Rico's law school and the other law schools in the island to have as much of a diversity of law students involved in the competition. That is really one of our biggest goals. Yeah.
We'll keep us updated any way we can support and help. We're here to do it.
Well, I just want to go ahead and add and extend you an invitation for the moot court, and hopefully your schedule will allow it for you to be there September 18 and 19 this year. I have two things that I want to bring up to you, okay? And I'm going to make it simple. I'm a simple guy, okay? Yeah. First of all, what do you think is going to happen now in November on the midterms?
I think that the Republican Party is going to lose their majority in the House of Representatives. I believe that we'll see what happens in the Senate. I think it's either going to come close, or the Democrats might take the majority there too. So we'll see what's going to happen. But I just think people are fed up. Prices are up. Everything costs too much money. The president's put us in another forever war in Iran that is resulting in innocent people dying and us literally paying for it. I always tell people, when you go to fill up your gas and you're paying insane amounts of money to fill up your car, every time that money sign goes up, you are literally paying for this war to enrich the military industrial complex. Our government's throwing all this money towards this effort. And then when we say we need health care, we need help with housing and all this, we're told we don't have the resources to pay for it. And
how
so
much? Oh, sorry. So continue. I'm sorry.
I mean, either way, I mean, it's, look, we're spending billions of dollars on this, and I think people are tired of it. And you see Democrats and Republicans and people who don't care, and conservatives and liberals and progressives all coming together and saying enough is enough. We need some sensibility in government. And so I believe Democrats will win back to House of Representatives.
I think we need Gen Z and new blood in both places. Okay, new ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to send these guys to spend some time with their families and grandkids before they pass. Okay, last question I'm going to ask you, Representative. Are you planning on running for president at some point in your life?
Yeah, president of my HOA, maybe, because I'm getting all them letters. You know, I'm tired of the letters, so I might have to run for that. But no, I have no plans to run for president. I couldn't imagine doing that. But I will say I am excited for 2028 because I think we're going to have a lot of people running on the Democratic side. I think a lot of them are going to be great. I love campaigns personally. You know, right out of high school, I started working on campaigns, and that's all I did for many, many years. And I'm excited to see people start their campaign. I always tell people who look perfect on paper will suck on the campaign trail sometimes. And people who look like they suck on paper will end up shining. And so people ask me, who do you think? I'm like, I have no idea, because campaigns matter. Campaigns matter. And so we'll see how people run them. I'm excited to see it. And also, I think it'll make time move a little faster, which I would love right now to get past this administration. So,
well, I would love to have a Latino, but like yourself, with Puerto Rican blood running through his veins, going into the White House. That's just me. I'm an old man.
Hey, maybe there'll be a Latino.
Didn't we start off by saying let's not make this political?
You have a politician on,
You cannot make it political when you have a politician out and we do the Raw Talk show, and I'm about just politics. Right. But that's okay.
But we'll see where it goes.
Well,
we wish you the best.
We've got our 30 minutes, and I want to thank you so much, Representative Maxwell Frost. leading the charge in Congress and leading, and also one of the voices that will be helping Puerto Rico get to this point. And hopefully that as we move forward with the conference and moot court this year, next year, and every year, it gets bigger and bigger. And the voice, that issue that's so important to the Puerto Rican community and actually to the nation as an equal rights question, will get to his voice. So once again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Steve. I'll see you next week.
God bless you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you very much.